everyone, welcome to Stand-Up Analysis. I am here with AJ. We're going over his set from the last laughter party. AJ, anything to say as like a hello or some like things to say about this room, the show before we get started?
Sure, absolutely. Hello. This show, I was like fifth or sixth in the lineup. I was very excited to go up because some of the comedians that came before me, they had like really wonderful opportunities for direct callbacks in my set, and I was so excited to do that. However, one of my tendencies when I start at the beginning of my set, rather than after my audience check-in, rather than dive into my material, I kind of like almost without thinking do callbacks, and they in this case I do a callback, and that it doesn't go the way I think it'll go, and you'll see in just a moment why, and it completely throws me off, and for the rest of the set internally I'm panicking. So me watching this right now, I don't want to do this. So if I look uncomfortable watching this, that
Oh,
is why.
sure. Yeah, way to resolve the tension about someone who might be watching this. That's a nice stand-up technique. Okay, so I guess without further ado, but with a lot of foreshadowing, let us watch.
How we doing? Fantastic. I'm doing terrible. He just said the last funny thing. So
Okay, great. How do we feel about our entrance moment and then that first reference to the last joke or a joke a comedian made?
Yeah, I feel all right. It feels a bit rushed, like I'm really running up there. My back's to the audience. I wonder how that might have played if I'd taken my time. Like,
Sure.
let the audience cheer for me. I wave. I wonder, rather than like kind of rushing and adding all this energy up top. And the only reason why I would think to slow down is to create a sense of dynamism where, like, there are moments in the show where I want to build pace, but if I start at the top with like this very frenzied energy, it doesn't
Sure.
leave me much room to go
Oh yeah,
anywhere.
you've already hit like you can only slow down in the beginning now because we've started. Okay, yeah, I could co-sign that 100%. We have sort of like a half of an introductory moment, and then it's sort of like I have this funny thing to say. I really want to say it. Call back now, love me. But like the audience was already in loving you mode, so like we sort of like sped up first love you moment to get into like I got this clever thing. So not terrible. We came in, we welcomed them, we got the applause. We were pretty good with the mic. But yeah, I agree. We didn't let the intro moment be its own moment. We sort of are too ready to start that next improv scene. So
Yeah.
yeah, sort of this face that you're making right now. That's how. No. That's how you feel right now. No. Okay. I don't hate any of it so far. Yeah.
little boy.
Yeah.
Wait. I do. Well, there is one thing. I do don't. We do stop the applause break. Like, I'm feeling terrible, which is a sort of like the audience is like, what? We sort of resolve it
Yeah.
with like he said the last funny thing, but we could have just as easily been like, oh guys, this is gonna be a tricky one. He said the last funny thing instead, and so it's like all fun instead of like I'm feeling terrible. Oh no, is he okay? Oh yeah. It's a
Yeah.
way to frame it.
I will say I have two. Yeah, I agree with that. I also have two responses to that. One is I think I do this thing where I invert. I notice when I'm writing, I'll sometimes invert clauses or subjects. Like my writing is a bit backwards sometimes, and I think I did that here where
Sure.
I give the punchline, but the audience is so ready to focus on my new material. I'm 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 presupposing that they know where I'm coming from.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And
I got you.
so if I just maybe if it might have worked differently if I'd inverted, oh, you're feeling fantastic. That's great. Sharon just said the last funny thing. I feel terrible.
Oh yeah. The joke would have worked as is if we. I feel terrible. Bah? Is that a funny thing? Huh? Is that a funny thing? Yeah.
But
Terrible.
my
That's oh hey, I got an additional one. Yeah, and we could play with the concept
yeah,
if the audience laughs at. Yeah. But I agree. If we flipped it, it would have worked wording as is. Yeah.
a lot better. Yeah. And then my second thing is that I if the audience's working memory is so brief, I'd rather than force them at the very beginning to focus on what they just saw in the last set. I think the audience is very ready to move on to the next
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I should I think I'm like doing something fun and clever by referring back to connecting myself to the set prior, but I think it might be better in the future to just kind of begin, like start with my own material
Yeah, so as far as like a one declarate mandate from heaven, what you should always do, it's hard to say. I do agree that like if we're too focused on callbacks up top, then the audience doesn't get our deal. They're just like, oh yeah, those other comedians were really good. But if the comedian before us just ended with a really strong joke that the audience might be still thinking of, we might need to resolve that moment a little bit before we go. So it's like. I'd have to like it's an unfulfilling answer, but I'd have to say like depends on the show. Like what I would in general
Yeah.
overall shows, it might be better to like do our own deal. But like once I could be argued the other way depending on the
Oh,
specific.
it's definitely, yeah, there's definitely no absolutes in my mind. However, I think that my strengths and callbacks are really fantastic when they're within the working body of my set, as
Sure.
opposed to up top. There are always going to be those moments where it's like you should absolutely, you know, acknowledge the thing that the audience is probably thinking. And I think
Oh,
I'll
yeah. I just sorry, you finished your thought, and then I have a thing that we can recontextualize this for us.
Yeah, no, just that like for me, I think the rule for me is going to be like, with the few exceptions, I'm going to maybe constrain my intro to like connecting with the audience and then beginning with my material, saving the callbacks for within once I've established a connection with the audience about who I am.
Yeah, I think what might make it hard if we're doing a lot of like if we do one big callback, one big resolve of tension at the top, I don't hate it. If we're gonna try to hit a bunch of them, then it's like the audience is learning about us through other people's hot takes. So it's like what our take is sort of like bled into all these other people's opinions, so they don't really know who we are. I think so, and because the only thing we have to
Yeah.
bridge with any of those callbacks we do up top is other comedians' material. So it's like we can only combine it to like other people's takes until we have presented something to the audience. So like that might also be something to think about if we're doing more than one thing up top before we've established anything with the audience.
Yeah, it's like an
Yeah.
improv. Like if anyone's familiar with improv, it's like or at least like premise-based improv, as UCB teaches it. You know, you have your base reality, then you have the unusual thing or the
The
game. But
base.
if you don't establish the unusual thing, sorry, if you don't establish the base reality and you only do the unusual things, the audience is like, oh, we're in crazy town where anything is possible, and they don't know who to
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah, at that point, the baseline reality is you calling out other comedians' joke, and so the weird thing is to be like, "Hi, by the way, my name is AJ," and that's the joke.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there
Oh.
could be a set like that. Crazy thing, crazy thing. Hi, by the way, I'm AJ. I am actually in this room with you. I'm about to go to Crazy Town again. Thank you so much for being. Wait, call back, call back, call back, call back, call back. Once when I was a little boy, I sat on a chocolate pudding, and I never was the same since. Crazy, like using the reality as the. Anyway, let's get back
Yeah.
to this.
Oh, you love him, right? Okay. Oh no. This is why I don't do crowd work. It's so great to see you. Thank you for being here. I love everyone so much. So,
Yeah, we're kind of like, oh, we're trying to connect it to something, but it's like we're sort of like a leaf in the wind right now, and then like a joke doesn't land, so we immediately bail, or it doesn't not land. It's just that this audience was a quiet audience, especially in the middle. So it's like, we've talked about. I'm not gonna make you delve further into. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I think it's important to explain because I think this what happened in this set is something I would not have anticipated ever experiencing or encountering as a problem. And so in a way, I'm really grateful for it, for this
Sure.
experience. But in the moment, it was terrifying, and obviously, even right now, it's still really embarrassing. I made a callback to Max's set. I'm sixth in the lineup. Max was second. So Max did crowd work with the audience, and part of his set was about never dating your best friend, and he used an example of his best friend and how his best friend is terrible. He's like, I don't want to marry my best friend. He talked to two people in the audience. I happen to know those two people. And he asked how long they've been dating. He asked the guy, he's like, do you think she's the one? He goes, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then he asked the girl, she said, his partner, he's like, do you think he's the one? And immediately the audience laughs because everyone knows the tension of the pressure of that question. He goes, I won't ask that. He says, is he your best friend? She goes, yeah. And she answers in that way. And the audience kind of picks up on the differences between the yeses. And so I make a callback to that moment. The look I see on her face, I interpret it as, I can't believe you asked me that. I feel so put on the spot and made fun of, and I feel so hurt. And in reality, they didn't hear me. She didn't hear what I said. She just
Yeah.
had no clue what
Okay.
I had said. And from and so you'll see what happens here is that after this, I make some other jokes to try to tease out whether or not things are okay or try to patch it up. And I get the same look, which is her confusion, but I interpret it as like I'm just
Yeah.
hurting you more and more.
Sure.
And so eventually I abandon it and try to,
I see.
leave that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, we're gonna watch that same 15 seconds with all that context.
So you love him, right? Okay. Oh no. This is why I don't do crowd work. It's so great to see you. Thank you for being here. I love everyone so much. So,
Okay,
onto
olive
my
branch.
material. I had a crazy weekend. Okay.
Okay, I don't hate the idea of like, okay, we've tried a bunch of stuff, it doesn't work. How do we get out of this? We need some sort of baseline thing. Onto my like, I'm just gonna be honest, onto my material. Like, okay, let's try to just like reset everything. I like that as a move, as a way to like get, instead of just being like material.
Yeah.
So like, even in our most panicked, we still have, luckily fundamentals are still running through us, so we're not completely lost at the win. So,
Yeah.
if that helps you watch it without completely, dying inside. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we continue after that?
No, let's not
yeah,
slow this
sure.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Friday night. Hello. Friday night. I'm still recovering from that. Friday night. I'm at a party. I meet Veronica. Okay. Veronica. She's from London. Yeah. That's really how she looked.
Yeah, I love that moment of like we're queuing in to get into the full impression. Yeah, and just like the little bit introduction of this character, the audience reacts to it, and I like that we're like, oh, okay, let's tease that out a little bit and let's jump on that a little bit before just like plowing. We're letting the audience's input change our output, which then will make them want to put more input into us.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Whatever material you prepare is immaterial to what's in the room. And whatever the audience responds to the most, like wherever you're getting the most heat, that's what we want to play to. And yeah, luckily I was still, even though internally I'm still,
Sure, yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, gosh, I've just created an awful moment for this audience member. If you do this at a party, you can just like, you can apologize and repair it, or like if you can't, you just leave. But I have to be on stage.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere. So, um, I'm just happy I was able to like pay attention and listen to that, because that is like one of the few moments in the set where like it's fun and to be a character. It's a very physical thing, and if they love it, you do more. If they don't, you just move on. So it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and who told you to start that character before just the lines that are being said by the character? Who said that?
Honestly, I think it was just me, like a better version of me talking.
Yeah.
Like,
Not even like lip injections. It's just like willpower kept it there. First thing she.
Oh, I wish we had shown it, because we say this big thing. It's just like willpower kept it there. Like if we had shown the thing we're talking about instead of
Yeah.
forcing the audience to do all the heavy lift. I think once again, I understand that we're not like, operating on maximum power, but yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been fine. Like force of will come. They're like, I dare you to try to keep if you kiss me, they still stay like this. I could be eating the biggest slice of pizza. Delicious.
I love
and
that.
Then, and then we could cue in the delicious for later. Spoiler, when we say delicious. That's one option.
I love that. Like for future editions, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
She says to me, she goes, "Let me guess your ethnicity." I don't think we need to do that. Shh. I like mixed boys. They've got that caramel dick. Are we sure? I've checked. So.
Okay, great. Thoughts on caramel dick. Thoughts
This
on
is
caramel dick.
That's on camera. I wasn't sure. I had so many things written down so I made revisions from the last time I did this previously in the December 11th show. This is the January 8th show, and I had some stuff that just was very, very new to get in the grain of it, and I prior to starting the set, I was very confident and comfortable with where everything was, with my familiarity with the set. obviously now I'm thrown off, and these are some of these are ad libs. Like, are we sure? I've checked ad libs because I can't recall in the moment what exactly I planned.
Yeah.
For here I plan to do some physical setups, some physical actions that I would call back later when I talk about Aaron.
Sure.
And because I'm like, I don't know where that is anymore, I'm kind of just like, let me just follow moment to moment what feels right for this story, for this bit. And I kept listening here. Like, I'm happy to see myself listening to the audience,
Oh, because it's like, yeah,
like
it's
leaning
like,
it, like, oh, they're laughing. Let me react to this more, or let me just sit and rest before I continue. So I'm happy to see I did that.
yeah, I really like that ad lib line, and then just like to those watching after the fact, that is one of the problems with a very well written like calling itself back set, is that like if things happen and things get bloody and like the beginning goes off a little bit, then you're like, in your mind, you're like, oh shit, I didn't say the 3 words that I needed to say it later, and I didn't do the wave, that's the big payoff, and then you're like, versus if everything is just its own, self-contained 1 minute, you don't run into that problem. But you don't get as high of a high when things do go right. What I do love about this joke specifically is when we do the reaction, we're like, and we lean over, we stick in it. We let the audience see that before we break out of it. And I think that's one time when we're really good at listening to what the audience is feeling. This, right? Yeah, see, we even took the mic to our mouth. We were like, okay, no, it's not time to speak yet. It's not time to speak yet. I'm going to stay in this for a second. And then we cue it in. So, like, really good feeling that moment out.
Are we sure? I've checked. So,
Great pause, great look around, great smile.
I'm
at
so
people.
shocked by this, right? Because like normally an opener is like, how do you know the host? What do you do for work? Not Veronica.
Ooh, it might be fun if like normally an opener is, hi, I'm AJ, how are you? Like, oh, how did you get here today? Like, you could actually like open and introduce yourself to some audience members.
Yeah.
It might make too big of a moment for them to remember that you're still talking about how weird this other opener is, but it is an option about like, oh, hey, how you doing? As a different way to pay off that. Like, normally in openers, hi, I'm AJ, how you doing? I definitely don't have a caramel dick.
Honestly, I really like that because here's why I like that. It's a break from the format. It's Brechtian in that way, right? But it's not alienating. In a way, it's a very fun, positive detour. It's a chance to have a connection with the audience that's positive and it's fun. And then we remind them why we even took that detour in the first place, which is to highlight the absurdity, like the ridiculousness of Veronica telling me this thing after meeting me for 5 minutes. So I love that idea.
I'm gonna see how many other stand-up analysis after like 4 years can get Brechtian, and then those concepts. I want to see how many like complex people are like, well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, 100% it is, and I appreciate.
I show up. I don't even do stand. I sit in there. I sit in the audience. I open my computer and I write my stand-up for next month's show.
Yeah. I've thought about doing that for my set when I don't have time to write one. Just be like, I don't have time to write material. We're gonna write material right now. What's your story? And just like try to like do my writing process with the audience, but too risky. I'd feel like I'm holding them captive.
And I'm so shocked by this. I turn around, and while I'm turned around, I feel two hands. One hand take 2 pats of these honey buns. All right.
Okay. Thoughts on the pat joke?
Awful delivery. I in the sense that like the wording is crucial, and I'm also wondering if personally I'm wondering I want to rewrite that because I'm wondering I'm demonstrating it. I'm also speaking what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'm
so
speaking what I'm doing. Do I need to do that?
Yeah. You could either be like, and I feel, and just show it, or and I feel 2 pats, and then demonstrate, or I think ironically, the one way we did this while saying it and doing it, the audience can't pay off the one because they're listening to the other. So it's like we could say it afterwards, we could say it before, we could not say it all, but say it while we're doing it, and then like too much is being input into the in like a weird, messed up way.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you'd think that having like the subtitles on while watching the movie would be fine, but in this case, it's not. Yeah, so I think just doing the action and then labeling it for the audience, so they get to react to the moment and then they get to hear the punchline about it.
Yeah. I also think we can have it can be like the actual pats can be slower, and like maybe it's not AJ style, but you could also, if you wanted to, you could also have really fun with the pats. Like you could be like, and then maybe it's like fingers linger and she like it slides up. You know, like we could have a lot more fun with the act because this is like this crazy thing happened, and then it's two pats, which is an obstruction of our person, but like we could heighten that so the audience like, oh yeah, that really is like not to like a degree, but it could be like maybe a little bit of grab and a pull or whatever.
What we could do is we could like slow that moment down. So the first pat. And then, so the audience looks at my hand, patting my butt. Then the audience looks up to my face. I get to react like, the fuck? And then the hand goes up again. The audience is like, what's happening? And then I go for a second pat. And I'm like, I get to have a bigger reaction to that.
My caramel.
My Hawaiian rolls. Like something like that.
Oh, yeah. I like that. I like the slow mo, especially because we're buying a lot of honesty with like the way we're telling the main story. That I think we have permission when we go away from it to like when we Spokane away to like go crazy with those scenes. Yeah.
This is real. Veronica is looking back at me. She's smiling. She's very proud. Delicious. I can't believe that. That just happened. That was a real thing that happened. And
okay, thoughts on delicious? Because I have some things to like, I don't know, think. Anyway, your thoughts before I go into it.
We all have things to say about it, namely boo, and I don't like it. It was, I don't know, it was a weird moment. I can't quite place. Normally when we watch footage back, I'm able to tell exactly where I was mentally. Here, I'm not sure what's going on. I think I'm still kind of recovering from that audience moment because I know I do something later on where that is in response to me trying to like reset the vibe for myself.
Sure.
Here, I just don't like how it comes out. It feels like I'm listening for something in the audience. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between me being Veronica and me doing AJ. And so rather than me switching from AJ to Veronica, there's like this halfway point, and it's like this isn't quite sold in the way that I would want it to be.
This moment is weird to me because like the audience is feeling weird and like I would expect a bigger laugh. Similar to the patch, we could also be like a caramel. Like we could make that moment and that physical moment. It's ironic how subtle we're making these big physical, like, hey, let's do a big physical punchline, and it's like the most like it's like we're not like going to full crazy town with it. I think maybe that could be adding to the audience confusion of like, and then she was like, so I am AJ here talking with you and I'm moving my hand up, but then I rapidly am now Veronica in this moment, and then now I'm back to AJ react. So maybe the audience has a little bit of whiplash about like, oh wait, where is this, like what is this thing in front, like how should I be thinking of this entity in front of me as time continues, and then I think the dismount is a little weird to hear. No, we have the laugh on the. Oh, actually, I correct myself. Revoked everything I just said.
Is looking back at me. She's smiling. She's very proud.
Great. Gets a small laugh. If we, it's hard to hear that laugh. That laugh was in the back, but we could stay even proud for a little bit longer before we start the lips. If we get a laugh on that.
Delicious.
I don't know. It's like we got a small laugh, and then like I don't know if the was like the audience was like, okay, now we're following this into this. So like maybe if we had paused on it more, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, I think if I had just sat with Veronica a bit more, like after she says delicious, like just rested in that and then reacted, I might have been moving too quickly and breezing by that moment.
Sure. Yeah. I could be convinced. Like I don't. Usually I'm pretty good, but that moment I'm like, I could spend an hour like thinking about that moment. So like, 100%. I'll co-sign your thing.
Can't believe that. That just happened. That was a real thing that happened. And you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I could use a pick me up. Would you mind? No. You're good. Sorry, I just have to
Okay, you want to explain that to people who weren't at the show?
Yeah. So, one of the other comics, Gaurav, he went ahead and he had this whole thing about like he's been getting picked up by women since he was a kid, like literally as like a kindergarten or a boy. And he had this really wonderful moment in the middle of a set where an audience member actually came up on stage, volunteered to pick him up, and like lifted him on stage. It was really fun. It was a really fun moment. And then he went back to crushing it for the rest of his set. I am, for whatever reason, at this point in my set, I feel just like disconnected.
Sure.
I I don't think I'm doing my best here, that I know I can do. It's not a matter of like perfection, which I'm definitely a perfectionist at times, but um, here my problem isn't that I wasn't perfect. My problem is that like I really got so thrown, and I'm still even at this point trying to recover. But although looking back on it right now, I have to say that like you're doing okay. Just keep listening to the audience, and like sure this moment didn't turn out the way you wanted to. You'll be able to connect with the audience, you'll be able to connect with the person afterward if you really need to address that. But just do focus on the next moment, and things might be okay. It might
Yeah.
be worse, but at least you're focusing on a new moment.
And honestly, similar to that other moment where we were like flapping in the wind, and then we felt like, okay, hey guys, I'm gonna start my material like reset button. I like this thing about like, hey, we feel like we're flapping in the wind, like we lost a little bit. It's like, okay, big moment, everyone remembers. Oh, hey, let's call back to this thing and have fun with this fun idea, and like it works. And so like I like that instinct still about like, oh shit, this isn't working. What can I do? What can I do to at least put myself on a hard reset? Okay, big joke that the audience all knows about that I can comment on real fast because we've all seen the same show together, which is another reason why I think it's very important that comedians see the whole show and not just show up for their own set, because that move would not be available to us if similarly, if we said the words "pick me up" after that happened in the show and we didn't know that we were referencing something, the audience could react to it and we'd be like, "What? What's happening?" And which is once again, but that's my own personal pet peeve about New York comedy scene.
Hashing that, I'm like, man, that was awful. She said this, and I'm like, this is surprising. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. And then I'm vamping.
She said this, and I was surprised. I was like, "Oh my goodness! Oh my God! Jesus Christ! Live long and prosper." We found like a little fun. I know we're vamping, but so yeah.
Yeah, no, let's definitely keep looking at this moment.
Okay.
I forgot the rest of. Yeah, no, I'm just vamping. Yeah.
Right now because I don't remember what happens next in my set. Give me a second. Wi-Fi beam. I'm getting it signaled from space. Okay, here we go. So I run home.
I still don't know it.
What?
I said that I got it. I didn't get it.
Oh, yeah,
I was
okay.
like, I'm gonna keep talking, and it's gonna come out. I like willed it to come back. I'm like, you gotta just keep talking.
That way, I mean, once again, it's easy to have the fact, like, I'm gonna will it back into my head, like my lips, I'm willing my lips, I'm willing the material to come out my lips, woo woo, like that. But once again, easy to do in our chair when we're not in a time pressure thing with other tents. So like, but if it happens again, hey, it's a move that you can
Alone.
And once again, and similar to the thing I always say on these stamp analyses, Laughter Party is good because we get a bunch of new material. It's bad because if he had performed this set 100 times before, he might have had to use this button, or he might have watched the set and gotten this panic button, so he'd have other safety valves to use, even when things go wrong, from having done the set a lot of time. Now he has one, moving forward, but it's like the pains of new sets.
Candy stays in the jar. Is he the jar? Is he the candy? He's somehow both at the same time. Next night, another party. I meet Aaron. Aaron's from America. Aaron says, how do you know the host? What do you do for New Year's? Or what do you do for work? I'm like, okay, this is great. Back to normal, Dick. You can't choose your nicknames in life. They're given to you. But we get along. We talk.
They're given to you. I don't know if we had any other comedians that we could have nicknamed out, but yeah, we're still once again, because we had those like flubs in the moment. I think we just don't feel like we're like connected tautly to the other material that we're calling back. So it's like I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't remember what I said, even though I just saw it 30 seconds ago. But
you're actively deleting this as you watch, so you never have to like think about it again.
I don't want to live this more than I have to. Yeah. This is my personal Groundhog Day, and it's only round two. So no, I say the candy in the jar bit. that is spoken so fast, it doesn't have a moment to register with the audience.
Oh,
I pick up on this. I pick up on this in the moment that I'm talking too fast because I'm like, oh, they don't understand what I just said. I need to slow down. So then you see me slow down, which I'm very glad I do. Um, in terms of the whole, at this point, I'm cutting my losses with the whole. Um, what sucks is I slowed down, which is great, but I flub on the opener callback, which is how do you know the host? What do you do for
yeah.
work? Is the new line versus what do you do for New Year's, which makes sense for the previous version, given the timing of that set in December. Um, uh, and so, despite the flub, I think that might be why I kind of had a bumpy landing,
Sure.
even with my slower delivery. But at this point, I'm just relieved that I've caught on to the fact that I was speaking too fast and I'm now slowing down my speed.
Sure.
So I
Great.
think that's how I'm feeling in this moment here.
Yeah, I think this set is a good like lesson in like how much the pilot is doing during, because sometimes we're like, oh, okay, the stand up, they're just talking to us, but yeah, there's all these like hoist the sails and that it's good to know that like that's why this has a skill ceiling.
We laugh.
I'll tell you.
End of the night, she takes my hand. She says, "Do you want to come back to my place?" And I go, "Yeah, I do. Would love to go back to your place." She says, "It's in Jersey." So we call a car. It's a 40-minute ride.
Great. New Jersey, big physical, punchline, simple, yeah.
Yeah, I know that was your pitch, and I thought, I'm not sure if that's like my style, but I went ahead and planned out like I'm not. Here's the thing. It's only my second time doing it. I would love to. In an ideal world, I play around with like 20 different variations of this moment here, where like what's the like where's like what's the bottom like what's the bottom of the roller coaster? What's the top of the roller coaster?
Oh, as far
Right?
as like the what we're hitting, how we're hitting, when we slow it down, when we just do the kick the mic. Yeah, there's probably an opportunity after we did the small kick. The audience had a really big laugh. That means that we probably could have played with it a little bit more. But yeah, if we'd done it more, we would have more moves. Like maybe if we have an undershirt on, we take our overshirt off. And we're like, "Ah!" Or maybe it's like you pretend to drop the mic, or maybe you push the mic stand away, and you're like, I'm so sorry, I went too far, guys, I went too far. No, it's Jersey, it's not far enough. I went too far. It's a fun phrase to say with Jersey, especially if we're doing physical things that you went too far. Just something to think about.
Yeah. I wonder if the audience. I'm curious. This is one of those moments as a comic where like when the audience laughs, you kind of have to do some interpretive work as to why, like what they were laughing at or why they were laughing. I'm not sure they're laughing because I did the kick as an extra heightening move. I think the kick is the only time I show like my actual feelings about it.
Oh, it's
in
like
the sense of,
character. Like now we're being AG in this moment with the kick. I could buy that.
Yeah,
Buy that
I
as a-
wonder
as
if
a real
that's
banana.
it. But I want to play around with that moment and do just one action, and then maybe when I talk about something else that it's a 40-minute ride, I call back to this, then I heighten it with a table flip. And then at the end when she forgets my name, it's the table flip, and then a kick or a bang on the wall. Just so that it 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One of the things I had planned for later during a physical act out was that I throw one of her cats
Sure. Spoilers.
out. Spoilers. Sorry. But I thought the audience will definitely not be on my side. Like they'll just like no one's even mimed violence towards a pet. It would be too much for the audience.
The
So I
audience
was
will
like,
pull
I'm not
back
gonna
if
do
you
that.
want to. You could always be honest, like it's not a real cat. Oh, and look, it's okay. Again.
Exactly,
No,
yeah,
no,
like-
it's fine. It's fine. It lived a happy life after I know. Like you can play with it, but yeah, the audience will definitely pull back on that. It needs something
Yeah.
if you do that move.
Yes. Aaron and I made great first impressions with each other, right? But 40 minutes is enough time to undo all of that. That's enough time for us to realize that maybe this isn't it. But we still like each other. We get to her place. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, at the very least, I could have taken the same Uber back, But
Okay, you put head in hands? Really? You hate that moment?
Yes. Yes, here's what you don't know about
Yeah.
this. I
Well, I know
say,
it.
at the very
Okay.
least, you can take the same. What's that?
Sorry, I fucked your flow for
No,
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 no
no,
reason.
you're good. You got. I just didn't hear you. Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's what you don't know. So again, this is one of those moments where I knew I had a gold, like an ace in my hand of a callback. Right. Gurov talks about he has a thing about with Uber drivers competing
Oh,
with each other.
yeah.
It's a beautiful fucking bit. And if you're anyone with two brain cells, you can see it coming a mile away how this should fit in with my set. I mentioned an Uber driver. He says he can say the Uber driver can say something to me that he says in Gaurav's set, right? Um, and I already had it mapped out. In this moment here, I'm still again reeling from that audience interaction that I start second guessing whether or not this is the moment to make the Uber callback. I think,
Oh,
oh, don't I mention the Uber elsewhere? I don't. It's just here. This is the only opportunity to make that callback. And now it's gone forever. Okay. A Thanos snap and it's gone away.
yeah.
And what results in, so that's what's going on in my head right now. I'm trying to decide, is it later? Is it now? Is this the only time? And what you see is a pause. But that's what's going on here. And
Sure.
that's why I hate it. I hate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's because like the other you hell is meeting the your highest potential self. It's like the you that did that joke, and then the whole crowd went, "Hey, Jay!" And then you immediately got signed for an HBO special right at
no, we get
Yeah,
there, we
yeah,
see
yeah.
like each other, and she opens the door. Now, before I say what happens next, okay, I need you to know what I was anticipating. At the party, Erin sold me on the night like this. She said, "No expectations. We'll just see where the night takes us." Okay, nice. No expectations. I like that. That's my favorite book. Oh, I'll reread that.
No, you don't like that?
Good joke. Great joke. Don't get confused at them laughing at your joke. It's like it's too many levels. Just cut the levels. Just like you do like me acting confused like, "Oh, did I get that wrong?" It's like too much character. This is me
Oh,
getting mad at
okay.
my response to that. And it's one of those things where like if you're playing a character and people are used to you as the character, that's maybe more enjoyable because they're familiar with it. And this is maybe a move that you would do with an audience that has known you for like a year. Maybe, maybe.
Sure.
But here, all I can think about is in like previous reviews of sets where we've talked about how if the audience is looking to us as
Oh,
kind of
sure.
a signal of like how we should feel about it, my confusion doesn't help with
Yeah, yeah.
that.
It's
Like the audience knows it's a joke. That's great. Now we keep going. We don't need to build a scene around it. That's
oh, sure.
me speaking like
Yeah.
egging on myself about like why you do that, you stupid boy.
Oh yeah, and
So
for those watching who might have not watched our other stand-up analysis, go and watch those other ones. Maybe I'll put a card on the YouTube right now. Yeah, a lot of times if you tell a joke and if as part of the joke like you're confused or angry, if you land the joke like this or whatever, the audience might be like, oh, it's not okay to laugh because the emotional avatar of the room, the comic, still in a weird non-resolved position. So it can be dangerous to especially be confused or angry or anything that's not like everything is safe, especially after especially like a cutesy joke, because it's like cutesy joke, he's having fun with this, right? And if you're like yeah, they'll be like yeah, but if you're like cutesy joke, they're like oh okay, cutesy joke. This is like a hopeful way to summarize that thought that we just played off of.
And she opens the door, and before we can get acquainted with her two cats, Peanut and Mia, who will be yes, cats. Peanut, that's her favorite part of the set. More cats. Just get a poster of a cat on the stage and then applaud that. Before we can get acquainted.
Great. So how do we feel about that?
that's okay. I could have explained that bit a bit more. I could have
Oh
explained that
yeah.
premise a bit more, which is like we just put a picture of a cat. I can go home, because that's all you need. That's how you like just explicitly state the
Yeah.
premise, like just label what's going on. Um, I could have brought the audience in maybe about what I saw, and what I did see was one of the audience members. Their faces, their face lit up with absolute like joy and excitement upon hearing the word
Oh,
cats. Yeah, oh,
oh,
yeah, and I was
yeah.
like, "Oh, you seem so happy." Which
Uh,
is the exact opposite of what I saw
oh,
with the
oh,
audience
oh,
member at the top.
yeah, that could be so funny. It's like I was missing cats. Ah, AJ. Cats. Ah, meow meow meow. Yeah, yeah. AJ. Like, yeah, we could have made that a real big presentation game. Yeah, yeah. But the audience is yeah. I don't think we fully tie the bow around this. We do a great job at recognizing the moment, playing the moment, and we just don't like tie it off at the end as well as we maybe could. But still, like most comedians would have blade past that moment altogether. So like I'll take it.
Yeah.
Acquainted with her two cats, Peanut and Mia, who will be watching and learning.
Oh, and I like that we cued into the full joke again, because like that hit mid joke, and so like we needed to like have a certain stride as we hit the final bit of those words, and so we're like, okay, hey, let's cue in instead of starting exactly where we left off. I like that too. It's a great instinct.
That. Before we can get acquainted with her two cats, Peanut and Mia, who will be watching and learning. Don't think too hard about that. Before she opens the door, or as she opens it, her panties are off and my shirt is gone, disappeared immediately. And what follows next is just an intense sugar rush of just caramel dick and coconut cake.
Ooh, if we had more specific physical things with the Jersey bit and the other physical moments, like we could have even called that back then. That this is an opportunity that we could have called back if we had really planted all of our physical bits and had them planned. This is an opportunity where we could pay off callbacks.
I know.
Oh. I'm just like drilling in the knife of what could have been, like what was gonna be.
This is why I don't want to watch this.
Sure. Okay,
because
okay.
it's all I see are like the missed opportunities, and so everyone else came up after the show. They're like, "Oh, that's pretty good," and I'm like, "No, it wasn't. It was." And internally, I'm like, "You don't know what you missed."
Oh, sure.
But yes. However, I just didn't know what I couldn't. I had a very tough time. I was very surprised by that moment at the top. It threw me off, and it interfered with my ability to have to maintain a working memory of what I'd done in the set, what I had prepared, and when you're doing a show, like you have your material prepared, but then you have the relationship with the audience, any callbacks prepared that you might have seen throughout the night, and you're just putting all those things together, and as you're preparing the recipe in real time, and my kitchen was just set on fire.
Oh,
So
sure.
it was a lot harder to do that. But yeah, this I completely agree. Great moment to call back this.
Yeah. This whole set is like right in the beginning. Someone dumped you with a bath of ice water. And you're like, duh, and they're like, now do your taxes, and you're like, do what? And then like ice is still like sliding down you slowly as you're like, trying to force this this activity to be done. So like when we look at it through that lens, great job, honestly.
That's me opening the candy jar. I've accepted my objectification as candy now. After we finish, and that's an honest we. No. I'm not ready to be a dad.
Okay, do you want to explain that chant to people watching at home that might be like, what?
Not at all. I think it's pretty self-evident. People see me on stage and they start chanting raw sex. People say what they want. Everyone's manifesting in that crowd. No, again, earlier comic, and he had there's a point in the set where he got the audience to chant raw sex, because he was talking about arranged marriages and how his parents want him to like, hey, no dating, but you need to have a kid. And he's like, how do I can't skip this without this. You want me to have raw sex? I of course talk about sex. Yeah, one of the I think someone else went ahead after someone started the AJ chant, and then another person started the Raw Sex chant, and it came in at a really wonderful time. And I just respond honestly
Yeah.
to that here.
Yeah, great. It's a great of like riding the wave. And if you have a nice, good show of other good comedians, then they preload the set with fun opportunities for us versus like some other shows in the city. Boo, where the audience is like, oh God, I already feel bad, and you're like, no, this is gonna be a fun show. This is gonna be fun. Don't forget all the things you just saw. This is gonna be a fun show.
So after we finish, she turns to me and she says, "That was great. What's your name again?"
Damn.
Aaron! Peanut! Mia, I know your name, I know the cats' names. I got you off, I got the cats off.
She watched, she was happy. Cats.
Cats. Yeah.
It's not real. Who do you think I am? You actually don't know me. That's fair. I could be anyone. So, yeah, I was like, it's 2 letters, right? It's just A and J, and you all chanted it right now. And it turns out I did have some expectations, Just remember those 2. Just A and J. Pretty please. But it was okay, because, there's a PATH train coming soon, and, raw sex. All right, y'all been great. Have a good night.
Oh, just look at your face. Just look at your. Oh. When you put the mic down into the stool, it was like the death man stare of like.
Really?
Oh God.
Oh,
yeah.
wait.
Watch your face as you put this mic away, and then you put on a good face when you turn back to the audience after you replace the stool. But for a second, it's like very evident that like, oh my God, you've just been in the trenches. Watch
Pretty please. But it was
happy,
okay.
happy.
Because, there's a PATH train coming soon, and, raw sex. All right, y'all been great. Have a good night.
Yeah, just that moment between the mic stand and the stool, it was like, and then we're like, okay, bye guys. So
Yeah.
Okay. So thoughts on the end of the set, and then our sort of like last joke before we, walk off.
I could have breathed through that a bit more. I was very lucky, even in this, to have that raw sex chant as an out to my, I'll say, unfinished set. It doesn't really have an ending in this iteration that I am currently like happy with. It doesn't have like a gymnastics point landing that I want.
I mean, this is a terrible one, but there is always like, and if you guys are looking for a happy end to this story, the only happy ending was between me, her, and the cats. Oh, thank you. Like like this, is like a yuckity yuck way out. Sorry. Back to you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I since it like doesn't follow like my brand in terms of like at least in that story. My brand as it exists in that story. Anyway, I think I could have breathed through that moment a little bit longer, and instead I kind of like I hear the first note of like applause or laughs, and I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm done. Let me get out of here. Because in my mind, my whole time on stage has been a failure. So it's like I just want this to be over. But I obviously looking back on this, I think I kind of cost myself maybe a smoother landing.
Sure.
If I just taken my time with it.
Yeah, I like the instinct to we do kind of like okay, bye. It is a little bit of like and then this raw sex thing, the raw sex ending, words I never thought I would say. We could have played with that like raw sex, New Jersey. Okay, we get all right back to raw sex, caramel dick. Like we could have made that a big song and dance if we wanted to make it feel like a more fulfilling end. I know we're sort of like audibling at the end to sort of like play something, but there's lots of things we could have had any sort of cue into an emotional reaction, then have done a big physical bit callback.
Yes to all those things.
Oh, sure.
I wonder if this audience had been, I'm not sure how easy it is to tell for anyone else watching this what it was like to be in the room, but
Sure.
if for all the comics, it was it was a tough room to be in. I found it tough just because of my audience interaction, and so as a result, it disconnected me from fully being able to pay attention to the opportunities in the room. But one of the comics was able to crack the nut of the audience, as it were, and like reap the rewards. And I think if I had developed one of two things, one option is like if the audience had been a little more warm, maybe I would have felt the instinct to do those things, or the audience didn't have to change at all if I had just been with them more. If I had
Sure.
focused on that relationship more, I might have heard those like opportunities whispering to me to play with them in terms
Sure.
of what we could chant, what we could talk about instead.
And for those watching after the fact, the unique weird thing about this audience is that there's like a huge there's 5 big tables and then tables in the back around. The basically like the 2 tables right in center were just the quietest people. They weren't having a bad time. Like if you look at their faces, they were smiling, but it was very hard to get them to laugh. And at least in especially when the show started, because they weren't really laughing, the big laughers sort of next to them were like, oh, okay, I will be quieter too. So it was hard to really crack the audience with a big laugh because of this weird psychology, to the point where I was like walking around and be like, okay, everyone try to tilt your set to be more real, because our first 2 comedians unfortunately had like big wild premise, like not true to life bits in them, and it made them look like they had egg on their face when they did this da 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 ha ha ha. Okay, and so yeah, luckily Gorov was the one. It was the moment when he called the audience member up to lift him up, especially that like really where this audience was the middle broke, and then Janet after him also reaped the benefits of that moment. But yeah, it is for those. It's hard to tell that just watching the set, but it was unique for us that there's this weird pocket in the middle. And as a comedian, it feels weird because you're like, okay, they're not laughing. That's the response, but they could be enjoying themselves. So you have to like trust them with an open heart, or you can be like, okay, they're not feeling me, and because comedians can be a little, sensitive. A lot of times they tilt towards they're not feeling me as the number one conclusion instead of maybe they're enjoying themselves but quiet. And so it could cause a lot of more like things to happen in your head, and that prevents you from really connecting with that audience where they're from. I'm not saying you did that. We had other things going on in our head, but just as a general sense with like weird audiences. Anything to say off that before I just ask you for final thoughts on the set? Things you would do, things you wouldn't do, things you learned. Just anything to tie this whole thing in a bow.
Sure. My final thoughts. Looking back on this, it's not as much. Oh, go ahead.
I thought you were gonna know my final thoughts. Ah! Ah! I'm sorry.
I punch through the wall. I flip a table. I kick the
Okay.
computer.
Yeah.
I looking back on this, it's not as much of a train wreck as it felt. It really truly felt like one of the worst performances I'd ever given in my life. And you would say, and if you'd seen all my performances I'd ever done, you'd know that that's not true. I've definitely done worse. Um, so I'm very happy that even whilst I was kind of like spinning out on the highway, I was able to I was able to maintain some kind of connection to the present moment of what was going on. This could have gotten even worse if I had kept speeding through. When I get
Sure.
anxious, I talk faster, and when you start speeding through your material, the audience can't land with it, can't connect with it, things don't land, and then you think, "Oh God, now I'm bombing." I wasn't really worried about bombing with this audience. I was honestly so focused on one audience member that I kind of completely forgot my whole set.
Sure.
And here's why if you find yourself in the same position, I want to say two things. One, you could be totally wrong. I was totally wrong. I
Yeah, sure.
misinterpreted it. They
Yeah.
just didn't hear me, right? And that's crazy. They didn't hear me, and I thought I devastated them. Wild. And then the second thing I would say, if you find yourself in that position, just trust that, like, if that is the case, you can just be yourself, talk to them afterward if you're comfortable doing that. In this case, I wanted to do that because I knew them. So obviously read the moment. Like you don't have to reach out to random people if you don't want to. Like, but you can repair a moment afterward if that's what happened. Do it afterward. Focus on your set. Focus on your connection with the audience because there's 60 other people in that room who want to have a good time and do a good show and they want to see you do your best. Everyone wants to see you do your best, so just do that.
Yeah. Technically 71 other people in that room, not counting the comedians. No. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think maybe that will be what I use as a summary for the set. Is that like, yeah, some things went wrong, but we connected enough with our fundamentals that it wasn't a death spiral. Like anyone who's been in the indie New York comedy scene has seen like a comedian death spiral. They say a joke, it doesn't land, then they try to bully you guys didn't think that was funny. Now they've created another tension. Now the audience doesn't like them. They try to do the next one. The audience isn't feeling them even as much. They keep it as ego, and it just like gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So much so that they either have to like call their set early or just like bomb out sarcastically, and then the next comedian has to start their set. They're like, so that just happened. I have to comment on it because otherwise you guys won't think I'm in the room with you. So I think that's a good, like, whenever I post any of these videos online, we get a bunch of people from the indie comedy scene reaching out like, that's not how comedy works. And I know exactly what their comedy is like. And it's like, if there are no fundamentals that we can learn, then like, why are we practicing this craft? So it's like, that's kind of out of like, what are you talking about, William? The bigger point I'm trying to is like, yeah, there are fundamentals, and when you find yourself in a weird spot, just return to them. Admit to like that, hey guys, I am feeling weird right now, so I'm just gonna reset for a moment. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I forgot my lines. Oh, I might have offended you. I'm so sorry. I'll buy you guys beers afterwards. I promise. That's why I'm acting weird. I thought I offended them, but you guys are having fun, right? Or if not, we can get if there's a tension in the air, try to resolve it as best you can. As long as it's not, some things are unresolvable, and that takes some knowing. But I'm rambling, and punchline fundamentals. Actually learn comedy, and not just try to be. Like I'm funny and I will always succeed no matter what. Everyone's performances are like okay. I think I know how to. Okay, so you start off as a comedian, and this is where your set ceiling and floor is, right? So sometimes you're gonna have good sets, sometimes you're gonna have bad sets. Random how the audience feels you, how do you deliver? The goal isn't to like have this set be your best set. The set is to increase your average. Let me move it in a way. So it's like, yeah, you'll still have good sets and you'll still have bad sets. And maybe your set today is like worse than your set was yesterday. But if your overall average is rising, it's like it's going to be because of consistent things that you can ground yourself into, i.e. fundamentals. And so that's what's important to sort of like make sure. Because, okay, yeah, oh yeah, but I killed last week. Yeah, but if you're only killing 1 out of every 10 shows, guess what? You're not a consistent comic. You are not bookable. I would rather have a C+ comic that is good, doesn't ruin the audience for other comedians, doesn't do anything terrible, but is C+ all the time than a comedian that is A+ 8 times out of 10, and the other 2 times the audience is like, because one ruins the shows for the other comedians as a thing to say.
Yeah.
That's just my own rant. This really has nothing to do with AJ except for like good job on his using those fundamentals in those few moments. With that being said, if you're still watching after that unhinged rant, hey, please give us a like, a comment, subscribe, hit that noti bell. If you want to see any more of our comedy, our socials will be in the description of this video. AJ, any words of parting to say after all this?
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly when you talked about resolving tension. That's the entire job. Comedy is a bubble that we inflate, we pop, and then another bubble, and we pop. And when we come into the room, there's all these other surprise moments of tension that come up with the audience. If you can't resolve it one way, you'll find another way to resolve it, hopefully. And with experience like this, I'm really excited to go to my next show and worry less, focus on the audience more.
Sure. Great. More eloquently stated.